You don't have a pricing problem. You've got a value communication and boundary problem. When the value is clear, they're much less price sensitive. We need to charge our worth. And I think that's the mindset that's lacking. Just raise your fees straight away. Add 10 to 15% on it. And what I've found is most clients, when the value is clear, they're much less price sensitive.
William Ringsdorf is the founder of William Ringsdorf Consulting. He helps architecture firms master profitability, process and purpose, turning chaos into clarity so you can design with freedom and confidence. Drawing on 3 decades of UK and German project experience, his coaching blends practical systems with architectural insight. This work is part of Into the Nest, an award-winning sustainable practice, giving his guidance credibility and a live design context. To grab a copy of William's ebook, How to Fix Profit-Draining Mistakes in Your Architecture Firm, head over to williamringsdorf.com/profit-draining mistakes. William, welcome to Architecture Business Club.
Thank you very much, John. Lovely to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you here. We've had a few conversations about this, and I'm really happy to be able to host this conversation with you today. Before we get into the topic, though, can you tell me a bit about what you like to do outside of work?
Yeah, like you, I see you have a guitar hanging up in the back. I'm actually a bass player, so that's one of my biggest hobbies at the moment, trying to perfect bass. But I do love to have a little practice every now and then. So that's my main thing. And then I think the other thing is we moved down to Chichester on the south coast about 18 months ago, and it's on the doorsteps of the South Downs. And both my wife and I, we love to walk and hike and things. So we do a lot of that these days as well. So that's what I'd say I spend most of my free time doing when I'm not tinkering away here in front of the computer.
How long have you been playing bass?
Oh, longer than I dare to say, really. I've probably started over 20 years, 25 years ago, I think it was, about 25 years, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And any particular favourite types of music that you like to play? Or
my favourite type of music to listen to is jazz, but it's the hardest to play. So the one I like to play best is I like to play blues, blues and funk and things like that. There's something with a bit of a beat to it, with a good bass, good bass line, always a good one.
Oh, sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah. Well, as a fellow, aspiring musician who's also been playing probably too long to think about, it's a fantastic hobby. Yeah. Yeah. Really good fun. So we're going to talk about the problem with undervaluing your expertise and how you can fix it. So I think this is going to be really useful for everybody. I think to begin with, why do you think undervaluing your expertise is such a big problem?
I think first of all, it's systemic. I mean, even the RIBA, they acknowledge systemically low fees. And it's just sort of become normal now. It's just normal that we are, as a profession, charging far too little for our services. And what that does, it leads to a downward sort of cascade, because, if you have low fees, you need to do more projects. So you have less time for management, which means you're risking quality or longer hours, which then can lead to burnout. Financial constraints, no budget to hire new people. So it's a cycle, it's a downward spiral. And the problem with that is you can't retain good staff, or you can't invest in systems. And also undervaluing it, it invites scope creep, which is, it's just a killer. It's a business killer. And quality is going to suffer. And also, your timeliness, you're not going to manage your deadlines. It's just, undervaluing is, unfortunately, it's really pushing clients to think about price first and value second. And unfortunately, we're not really doing much to help as an industry.
So this is a really big problem. You just outlined there that this spirals into a whole cycle that's difficult to get out of, where there's all sorts of sub problems that then, like other problems that come up from it, that we can track that back to undervaluing your expertise and essentially not charging enough for the services that you deliver. I've definitely done a lot of undercharging over the years when I've been practicing architecture in the past decade or so. There's a lot of other people that struggle with that as well.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started, I guessed an hourly rate, and I didn't probably change it for 10 years, and you're still haggling over fees. It's it's
that kind of classic sort of thing of particularly when you start out with your own practice or as a freelancer, sole practitioner in architecture, of like, well, what? I mean, maybe you might have had an idea of what your previous practice charged out at, but then it's kind of like, what do I charge? What do I start with here? It can be so difficult to do it.
Yeah.
Why do you think it happens so often then? Why do you think undervaluing your expertise is something that just happens so frequently?
Yeah. I mean, going back to when I first started, when I left university, I was taught to design, we were taught architecture, we were taught all of that. But what we weren't taught was, were business skills. So pricing, negotiation, business models, none of that sort of thing. So there's definitely a training gap there. So when I started out, and I'm sure when a lot of other architects, when they first start out, there's a lack of confidence, I would say. There's this fear of that you're going to lose your clients. We're not really sure how to articulate our value beyond just drawings. So we can't really calculate our true costs, We don't really know what our effective hourly rates are. We forget about overheads and opportunity costs and things like this. And then there's also the thing, we have industry norms. So, we're told, okay, fees should be percentage based, so however much it's going to cost, it's going to be a percentage. We're told that's what others do. But the problem with that is it's like, we're not talking about value. And that's something I talk about a lot. It's, we need to be concentrating on the value that we can add, not just an hourly rate. And we're not really taught sales. Sales is it's a difficult topic, especially for professionals. So we're not really good at talking about money. We're not good at addressing any objections. So what we tend to do is then we'll end up discounting our work or basically giving away scope. I don't think it's a talent problem. I think it's more of a systems and a mindset problem, and it's really rooted in how we've been trained and just how the industry behaves as a whole. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, that thing of charging by the hour, like hourly rate work, I mean, that's one of those things that the more efficient, the better that you get at your craft, at your profession. If you charge in that way, you're penalised by it. The percentage fee thing, that there's not always that direct correlation between the contract value and the complexity and time required for the job. There could be other mitigating factors involved as well. Like, if you have a particularly demanding client or a complex brief, that might mean that you could have two projects with the same value, same contract value, where one is taking up far more resources than the other. Yeah, I think pricing can be so complex for people. And as you say, that you mentioned about mindset as well, about how that plays into this.
I remember when I was studying, fees were never mentioned. There was no such thing. All we wanted to do was design beautiful buildings, which is fine. Of course, that's what we want. If we want to run a practice, we need to charge our worth. And I think that's the mindset that's lacking, this lack of confidence, I think, in our own value. It is, like I said earlier, I think it's become very systemic. And we as an industry, I think we need to really be addressing that when you're studying in universities, not wait till we're having to actually, make a living at this job.
I think, there's a couple of things to pick up on there, William. I think that thing of mindset about it, I think for sole practitioners, for the smaller firms, that we can often as creatives be so emotionally invested with our work, and when that gets to the point of pricing things, there can be that feeling where we get a little bit too attached to price in that it's a reflection of like us personally. It can be very hard to see it objectively because there's that sort of like emotional sides to maybe your own relationship with money and your own kind of money mindset that can affect what you're willing to charge, rather than being more logical about it and actually looking at what you should be charging or what you could be charging versus like just, oh, can I ask this much? Do I feel comfortable with this? I think the other thing as well, transparency. I'd be interested in your experience when you dealt with or worked in other practices in the past. Did you find it to be transparent about project fees? Because my experience was that I really didn't have an understanding from the practice leaders that were agreeing and setting the fees. I would be part of a project team. I had no clue about the finances on the projects. I didn't really have an understanding of how much money was in it for the practice to inform the way that we worked and what we did on the projects, certainly in terms of hours. What was your experience of that?
No, it was the same. I mean, I can't explain it really, but it was exactly like you. You know, we were given our tasks, our projects, and we did our work and we got a salary. But how fees were worked out, how fees were calculated, was very opaque. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know. I think it would certainly help, I think, anybody who's employed if they sort of could understand, again, you know, just if they could understand their value, you know, simple as that. I think it would certainly help people really help architects understand exactly what their worth is if they actually knew how they were being, you know, how they were being priced, how they were being valued, and how the jobs were valued, etc. But yeah, there is a definite lack of transparency, I feel. I'm not sure, you know, I haven't been an employee for a little while now, but I'm not sure. I doubt it's changed, personally.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I very much doubt that it's changed much at all. The good news is that you have uncovered how to fix this problem in 5 simple steps. Would you be able to walk us through that one step at a time?
It's actually, if I break it down, there's actually, I would say there's a couple more steps to it. But I mean, the first step is, the very first thing is what I do is when I go in to see a company, a firm who's struggling, the first thing we do is we do a value audit. So that is, you need to look at all the ways that you can reduce risk, the ways you can save time and money, and the way that you can create certainty for clients. So it's about communication. It's about being transparent. That's the very first thing you do. Then the second thing you need to do is you have to know your numbers. I mean, you just have to. It's a tedious thing, and you know, we don't like it talking about it a lot, but you have to know your numbers. So that means calculate an effective hourly rate. Yeah, base it on recent projects. So, you know, see what came in, how much did it cost, what were the overheads, etc., etc. You know, what actually do you need to make a profit? And then you set that target rate and you make sure that it covers your overheads, it covers your salary goals and your profit. Never forget the profit, and always be very clear about profit. Then the second thing is the actual proposals, the fee proposals. I like to tier them. So I have service tiers. So you have a basic offer, a standard offer, and a premium offer. And in each of those tiers, you identify the deliverables as well as the boundaries. And that way it's very clear to the client what they're going to get for their money, instead of just having one fee proposal and just sort of list work stages, the RIB work stages as things. You know, it becomes much, much easier for the client to understand the value. And then what I also like to say is that when you're writing your proposals, you need to communicate the outcome. It's very much about the transformation or the value that you're going to be giving to your client, not the hours you're going to need to do it, this sort of thing. So it's important to emphasize things like their return on investment or the risk reduction, or just to give them decision clarity, really. And then the last step I like to do is really, it's a bit drastic, but I always say, look, just raise your fees straight away. Just take the next proposal and just add 10 to 15% on it. And what I've found is most clients, they're not, it's not about price. When the value is clear, they're much less price sensitive. So it can be quite nerve-wracking for young architects to do that. But in my experience, like I said, once the value is clear, the clients are a lot less price sensitive. So those were the other things that I would sort of encourage young architects who are starting out. That's what I'd encourage them to do.
Have you got an interesting story about running your architecture practice? Have you done something different in your business that's been hugely successful? Or has a failure taught you an important lesson that you'd be willing to share? Then why not apply to be a guest on this podcast? Just click the link in the show notes to send us your details and get started today. And if you're joining us for the first time, don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss another episode. Now, let's get back to the show. I love that. So just to recap then, so the first thing was there was a value audit. So that was getting clear on your numbers, understanding what you need to charge within your practice. And that was looking at things like hourly rate, wasn't it? Sort of determining what rates should be being charged to cover everything. So we're talking like standing overheads, payroll, profit as well. Actually building that in as well so that we are aiming to make a profit. Otherwise, why are we bothering?
Exactly.
And then you mentioned about having tiered service options. I love this idea. This is, I suppose it's like the sort of classic like bronze, silver, gold, or like whatever you want to call it. But the thing I like about it is it gives the client, it gives them control of the decision making, and it doesn't back them into a corner where if you send a proposal and they read it and think, well, actually this isn't quite what we're looking for, like we were maybe wanting more support than is being offered or less support, that you're actually giving that autonomy and control to your client to put them in the driving seat to make that decision, and also just present those different ways that you could work with them.
I think it's also more professional. It's just more professional. A lot of people, when they see architects' fees, are a bit surprised, let's say. They're a bit surprised at the amount. So if you can break that amount down and give them a choice, they don't have to have everything. They don't have to go with the premium. They can just go with the standard, or they can just go with the basic. But there is a service there, and we can meet their budget. It just gives the clients more confidence, I think, personally. It's certainly been in my experience.
Yeah, that's so true. I do like that approach. I'm quite a fan of having tiered options and sort of a menu of service packages. I do very much like that approach. Just going back to the fees, because it might have been when we talked previously about having conversations about fees. That was under the thing that I think we talked about previously, about having like rehearsing some of those fee conversations, because you mentioned that often that is something that people are uncomfortable to do, to have sales conversations, because we don't get trained how to do sales at university or college, wherever you got your education. It isn't something that's usually taught as part of an architecture degree or that sort of thing.
No, exactly. And the thing with sales is, we're all different. Some people are just more charismatic, some people can articulate themselves better and this, that, whatever. But the thing with sales is it's a process. If you listen to sales calls, if you listen to salespeople, they're going through a process. They're not just winging it. There's an absolute process. And once you know the processes and you're confident with the processes, then you're not going to be afraid to address objections. You're not going to be afraid, to really articulate your value in a confident way. And so I think that's what a lot of people misunderstand or just aren't aware of with sales. It is a process, and you can learn the process. And that's why I always ask my clients to. It's basically role playing. So one plays the client, one plays the architect, and you literally practice the scripts and you go through the processes, and you just become more and more comfortable with it, basically.
That'd make a great podcast. I should add that to the ideas bank. William, do you have a story or an example of a firm that has had success by implementing these steps in their practice?
Yeah. I mean, the one that comes to mind is a small practice I worked with recently, and we were based in London, and their main focus was on extensions. And they were very busy. They had very thin margins, working long hours, and often were suffering with scope creep. So sort of the classics. So what we did, the first thing we did was we did a value audit. So we looked at their projects. We looked at where there could be risks. We looked at, where we could save time, all those sort of things. Once we'd done that, we looked at the fee proposals that they were doing. And we changed those to be more outcome-based. We introduced the 3-tier service packages. So we had a basic service, a standard service, and a premium service. And we also implemented scoping templates. So that's basically literally just, for each tier, there's a scope. Basically a scope for each tier. And there's there's just a little checklist. And we just make sure that those templates are followed. And then what we also did was, if there were any changes come along, we made sure that we had a very simple change order process in place as well. And then what I asked them to do, which they were very, very nervous about at the beginning, I said, look, just increase your fees by 20% on all the new proposals. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just do it. And let's just see what happens. And then what we did, which led very nicely into them practicing fee conversations and object handling. So that was this role play basically, and this is learning the process of sales. So I met up with them about 3 months later, and we had a little chat, and it was interesting. Well, it was very positive, because what they did tell me was that they hadn't lost any conversion rate despite the 20% fee increase, and also their clients. They noticed that their clients they were much more serious, and they were clearer, and they had higher budgets. And I think a lot of that's what I was saying earlier. It just, if your fee proposal is more outcome based, you just come over more professional, more competent, etc., etc. And I think that's a direct result of that. They also reduced their unbilled extras through these change orders. And what they both also said to me was, it was a couple. They both said that they're working fewer evenings, and they're not working any more weekends, and that they're predictable. Their cash flow was much more predictable. When they price for value and they enforce their scopes, they didn't lose any clients. All they lost was chaos and one clarity, basically. So yeah, it was a very, it's a positive outcome with making small changes.
That sounds absolutely fantastic, and something that they were able to put in place and start seeing those benefits in a relatively short time frame as well. This stuff where you're able to go in, help them out. They were able to implement this, and then they started getting those results pretty much straight away. So absolutely fantastic. William, what would be the main thing that you would like everyone to take away from the conversation today?
Good question. I think the biggest thing I would like to say is that, look, you don't have a pricing problem, right? You've got a value communication and boundary problem. If you charge for the real outcome, and you deliver and you protect it with clear scope and change orders and measure your weekly KPIs, then profitability becomes a habit, So articulate the value, you price for it, and you protect it, and review your numbers every week. It's so important. It's so important to track data. So keep reviewing, keep tweaking, and just keep articulating your value. You're worth it. You really are.
Oh, I love that. Was there anything else that you wanted to add that we haven't already covered?
I think the thing is just start, right? I always say start with imperfect action. Just start and try. So I would, just pick one live proposal and raise the fee, or just pick one active project and issue a change order, for any work that's out of scope. But one thing I would say is, just I've already mentioned it, but I'll say it again. It's just the importance of tracking your data, keeping on top of it. Those are the things that the biggest three things that I would suggest to anybody now.
There's one other thing that I would like to ask you, and I ask this question to all of the guests, and it's not about the topic, but I love to travel and to discover new places. And I was wondering if you could share one of your favourite places and what you love about it.
Somewhere I've actually been to, or somewhere I'd like to go?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it could be either. Usually it's somewhere that people have been to before.
Okay.
But I'll let you have two here if you want. You can tell us the favourite place that you've been, and like where's number one on your bucket list that you haven't yet been, if you want to.
No, sure. Well, one of my favourite places I went many years ago was the Maldives, and I went there as I think I just finished college or something. It was a long time ago, and we did a scuba diving course. I learned to scuba dive there, and it was the most beautiful place in the world. It was, you see these postcards, and it actually looks exactly like that. It really was just absolutely stunning, and obviously doing the scuba diving, this water world down, it really was quite fascinating. And then I met a client, which is why I asked if you'd like where I'd like to go. And he had a diving school in the Philippines. And we obviously talked about it, and I told him about the Maldives and how great it was. And he just basically said, no, you've got to go to the Philippines because it's even better there. So that's the one that's on my bucket list to go. So scuba diving in the Philippines is the bucket list, and the Maldives is the one that I've already ticked off. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Can I come too? I have done scuba diving in the past. I haven't done it for a few years now, but I love it. Yeah, I did when I was sort of backpacking in my 20s. I learned to scuba dive, and then did it in various kind of places all over. And it's like another world, isn't it? Like you say,
it's amazing. And the great thing is, it doesn't matter what the weather's like. Yeah. So if it's cloudy or rainy, it doesn't matter when you're underwater. That was always the one that always used to tickle me. You'd come up and it was pouring with rain, and you're like, oh, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Absolutely. Brilliant. William, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your expertise. Could you just remind everyone the best place to connect with you online?
Yeah, well, I have a website, williamringsdorf.com. That's where you can find me and drop me a line, or you can just email me direct, which is info@williamringsdorf.com. And as you mentioned at the beginning of our chat, I have a free book which I'm giving away, which you can get if you go to williamringsdorf.com/profit training mistakes. Rather a long one, but it's, as I say, it's free. And yeah, we just covered one of the topics today, and there's another 4 in the book. So everyone's more than welcome to grab themselves a free copy.
Yeah, I have read the ebook, and it's a really great resource. So I'll pop a link in the show notes. Just click the link and head over to that URL, and you'll be able to grab a copy for no charge whatsoever. So, William, thank you again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, John. Nice to meet you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Architecture Business Club. If you liked this episode, think other people might enjoy it, or just want to show your support for the show, then please leave a 5-star review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It would mean so much to me, and it makes it easier for new listeners to discover the show. And if you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And if you'd like to connect with me online, you can do that on most social media platforms. Just search for @Mr. John Clayton. The best place to connect with me online is LinkedIn, and you can find a link to my profile in the show notes. Remember, running your architecture business doesn't have to be hard, and you don't need to do it alone. This is Architecture Business Club.